So here's the video of me cracking open the geodes. I bought 4 geodes off a lady off Facebook. I've been looking for a really long while to buy some because the thought of cracking them open myself really appealed to me, but I was only able to find ones in the UK that were white quartz, and I really wanted a variety, especially if I could get amethyst. I've got loads and loads of amethyst, but the thought of cracking open my own geode with amethyst in it, I was just beside myself, but I just could not find it. And then all of a sudden, a lady that I bought crystals before had them up for sale, and I was just like, this is a sign. It's just been my birthday. I had birthday money, and I thought, yep, I'm going to get some. So we had a hammer and a chisel, and didn't think it was going to be as difficult as it was. I wanted them cracked in a certain way, so as you can see, I'm actually holding the geode as my other half is trying to do it with the hammer and chisel. This was one of the thinner ones, so it was quite hard to do. My hair really gets in the way here, and I really wanted to crop it, but as you can see, we finally managed to get it open, so I didn't want to crop it and you missed the bit where it actually cracks. As you can see, he tried to put the chisel inside, and I was like, no, you're going to break all the crystals. So we started doing it from the side again, but it was quite easy once we put it back. I think we'd already kind of, not softened it, but it was just a lot easier. So here it is, you can see it is white quartz, and there's lots of what we call snowballs inside. It's very, very pretty, but I was a bit bummed that it was white quartz because all of the geodes looked the same. So I was thinking this isn't a good sign. So I decided then to let my son have a go. He chose his pick. We had a bit of a debate of what way he should be doing it. He was getting quite stressed out. We had goggles on, etc. So please don't be alarmed because bits were flying off. So I do recommend wearing goggles completely, because if one of them bits got in your eye, you would know about it. This took some while for him to do it. I ended up not being as picky about what way he should do it and just let him get on with it. So I'm going to just speed this bit up if I could figure out how to do it. So my son was very, very determined, and he's fiercely independent. He takes after me. So he was trying every way to be able to do it. He tried holding the bottom of the chisel, and I was like, no, you can't do that. He then changed positions to get himself more comfortable. You'll see in a minute he kind of really gets on the floor to get into it. He weren't going to let anyone help him, and he kept on asking if he could just throw it at the floor, and I was like, no. But he did manage to do it in the end. It just took some time, and perseverance is probably the best word to say. And here we go, he's going to crack it. This one went into many, many pieces, and I do think it's because of the angle that we done it at. But that's the one he chose, and he was happy with it. So he carried on going. I didn't really appreciate just how hard it was to do. It takes a lot of strength, and I really did underestimate just how strong they are. This is the one that I try and do, and it just didn't happen. So again, I'm just going to speed it up because I take a long while before I kind of give up and let someone else do it for me. So I do hit it very, very many times, and it's quite a straight bit where I've got the chisel on the geode. My partner then ended up trying to hold it for me, which didn't help. It's actually making quite a big score in it. So the chisel sitting quite nicely. As you can see, there's a hole there, but it just weren't cracking. So I was getting more and more frustrated, which you'd think would make me crack it better, but it didn't. I just kept on hammering it, and it just didn't work. I weren't the only person to have a go. As you can see, like, my partner just takes over. Nah, he tries. He couldn't get it to crack. It was quite a big solid one. The others were quite hollow and were really pretty inside and were easier to crack because of that. I've taken it back now. I was determined. Determination let me down in the end, but I did try. We're trying to get it right in that groove. He's holding it. In the end, I think I convinced him to hold the chisel for me. My son's now taking over, and he's trying as well. I think the more full they are, the more solid they are. They're just so hard to crack. I think we needed kind of like an angle grinder for these last two that are on this video, but we were so determined we were not letting this geode beat us. We had quite a laugh trying to crack it, to be honest with you. Like, we, if you could hear us, we was all giggling and having a good time. So although it took us a long while, it was fun, and it finally cracks with my boyfriend. And as you can see, it is very, very solid inside. There's hardly any gap here. This was the fourth and final one, and when I say this was a nightmare to crack, I mean it was an absolute nightmare to crack. Um, I was so determined to do this last one because my partner had to do the one before for me. You can see how hard I'm hitting. I have sped this up so it looks like I'm going really fast, and I'm not. I actually hit my hand a couple of times doing it, so please be careful if you're going to try and do this. If you've got an angle grinder and you know how to use one safely, I would really, really strongly suggest you do that. The whole floor was literally shaking, and my son was making a joke saying we're going to get a noise complaint. And to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if we did, because it was very, very loud, and my dog getting involved. I'm still carrying on trying. Look, I convinced him to hold the chisel for me, which I wouldn't suggest anyone do at home either. It's quite dangerous. But I was just getting so frustrated at this point. I was actually like getting a lot of frustration out. It was very cathartic, to be honest with you. My head's getting in the way of the camera. I just didn't care. I was actually sweating by this point, and I just really wanted this to crack. I'll finally give in and let my boyfriend do it, because I was just convinced I'm not going to be able to do it. Or did I try and just do it with the hammer first? No, I've gone back. I've obviously had a little bit of a like, oh, I can't do this, and then tried again. But just nothing was working. Look, I've made a massive groove in the rock, and in the geode, I should probably say, and it just was not cracking. And at this point, we didn't know how solid it was. So my partner's taken over. He's having a go. You can see the floor shaking. My tripod was shaking. My phone was shaking. You can physically see, even with the sound not on, how loud that must have been. It just was not giving. So he's now holding the chisel while I hammer. I think I caught him, so that's why I wouldn't suggest that. Actually, I don't think I did. I think he thought I was going to move out the way, and I remember distinctly saying I weren't going to hit you. And that's why he's still holding the chisel, because if I would have hit him, he wouldn't have held it any longer. So, yep, still going. I'm sure I'm breaking the chisel. It's a very old, rusty chisel anyway, but I'm sure I'm breaking the plastic point by this point. And giving it all I've got, getting every bit of anger out. Look at the big, big groove on it, and it's just not having it. Look, I tried to hit it with the back of the hammer. Nope, it weren't a very good effort though, in all fairness. It was a pretty weak effort on my part. So again, my partner tries to take over, and he couldn't do it, and that's how I knew there was just this. Like, he tries to do it with the hammer, and it just is not breaking. So it weren't me. I should have persevered with the one before, and I might have actually got some. And there's physical chunks coming off of it now. You can see all the chunks around it. He's hitting it with the hammer, and it's just not breaking. At this point, we get so desperate, we're all literally just taking it in turns hitting with the hammer. Like I said, we're all wearing goggles, so it weren't too dangerous, but it's still not advisable. If we just got more and more frustrated with it, it kept on rolling off, and we just put it back and check if anything happened. My son's having a go, he's just hitting it. He was getting it. We all got some really good stress relief that day though, in all fairness, because we were hitting that geode pretty hard. As you can see, look, you can see the white underneath showing. We should have known by that it was solid, because you're starting to see the quartz. But what I am going to do with this is try and polish it up, not polish it up, like sand it, so it's just one lump of quartz, because that is literally all it is. As you can see, Perry, my partner, actually managed to get a bit off. He'd had enough by that point, so he just kind of chucked it to me like here. I think by this point we just enjoyed having a bit of a stress reliever, especially with everything going on with the pandemic. So we just carried on trying to get a bit of more of the outer shell off, which we all took turns in doing, and it kind of worked. It was a full pink moon that night, the last super moon in the year, so I was excited to get them all out. But I will try and sand this one up and just have a big lump of white quartz, really. The rest were really, really good and nice, so I'm happy. My supplier actually has got more, but I'm quite dubious to do this again, as they was all white quartz. But yeah, that's my geodes all cracked and done. So this was the big solid one. That's what it looks like inside. This one is the second biggest one. That's quite solid. That took some time to break as well. As you can see, there's a tiny little K where you can see inside. This one is the other half to that, so that's quite solid. And this is one of the smaller ones with nice big snowballs in there. That's quite a pretty chunk. This one is a little bit more smoky inside, but I think the smaller ones, the more hollow ones, are actually better than the big solid ones. This one's got some like orangey flecks in it, and it's the same on the other side too. And this is probably my favourite piece. It's very in your face chunks of geode. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe and break geodes.